Aaron Rodgers was the only starting quarterback in the league with an unexcused minicamp absence, but hold on a second. Rodgers telling the Pardon My Take squad, they can arbitrarily put a tag on whatever week of OTAs they want and say this is the minicamp week, which makes it somehow more mandatory than the other weeks. That's how words can be a little deceiving from time to time. They can make a story out of the fact that I missed minicamp, but it was really 2 OTA days. Also, before I get your reaction, Nick, I will add, Aaron Rodgers was pretty delightful in this interview.
Yeah.
I thought that he was just fantastic and kind of lighthearted.
Yeah, those guys make everybody feel good.
Yeah, so this feels like the quote panel may come off more, I don't know, adversarial than...
No, that I disagree with. Okay. Because I don't know if it was, because PFT then poked at him and was like, oh yeah,
I know.
you'd never use one word to mean something else. And Rodgers all of a sudden sharpened up and said, you want to get into etymology? We can get into etymology. And then they laughed and moved on.
So good, though.
So listen, here's the thing. There's no such thing as more mandatory or less mandatory. It's one of those words. There's no max or min. It's just a thing.
Yeah.
It is mandatory. If you don't know what the definition of it is, I think we can show it to you. It means compulsory. You got obligatory.
Yeah, that's good.
And so it's not, it's just helpful because Aaron Rodgers is out here talking to us about, that words can be a little deceiving.
I like about the mandatory retirement.
Yeah, it's not deceiving or confusing at all, which is why you're right, there were a lot of OTAs, there were a lot of stuff, but somehow everyone on the Jets understood this particular weekend or couple days was the most important, which is why everyone was there except for Aaron and a player who's in a contract dispute with them because they traded for him without getting a contract done. And so, Coach, folks will say, and some of the Jets apologists, some of whom ostensibly are media members, will say, how is this you really think this is going to impact the team? Yes. I do not think this person can lead a football team. I don't think someone that is just on the biggest sports podcast or second biggest sports podcast in the world, making sure everyone knows the rules simply don't apply to me, and I will bend understood definitions of what words mean in order to explain how I did nothing wrong, is not going to be an effective leader. And I don't know if he's still an effective football player, but I know that person's not an effective leader, Coach.
Yeah, as football coaches, one of the things that we strive for is confusing our players. we really want to be as vague as possible with everybody. I mean, mandatory could not be mandatory, it could be voluntary, and that's what we strive to do, is make sure everybody is as possibly confused as they can be. And here's the thing with Aaron, it's another typical example of him deciding what's important. It doesn't matter what the team feels is important, it's whether or not he feels it's important. And there is a difference between a mandatory minicamp and an OTA. Now, it could be formatted the same way, and it could be scheduled the same way, but the significant difference is everybody's going to be there. So your practices, your meetings, they're more meaningful because everybody is there working together, where during the OTA process, you will have quite a few guys that miss. But it's your one opportunity prior to training camp to have everybody together to cover whatever you want to cover, and to make sure that people are on the same page going into training camp. And it's frustrating where over and over again he's just going to decide what's important, and then if he doesn't think it's important, he's going to disregard it.
You know what I think was interesting about this whole thing? Outside of just missing the minicamp, we all thought, you know what, if the Jets handled this from a PR standpoint, everybody would be cool with it. You know what, Aaron was here for these 9 days, and he wanted these two days off. We got out ahead of it. He's taking them off. So be it. It wouldn't have been a story. Maybe it would be a little brush fire, easily tamped down. So now, looking forward, I think we have a few more bites at this narrative apple for just missing 2 days of camp. And Aaron thinks it's no big deal. But now we got it from this podcast, from Pardon My Take. It's going to come around again. Aaron is not going to let it go that he was wronged.
Yeah.
And I don't think Saleh is going to say, well, I wasn't wrong. I wasn't wrong either. The unexcused absence wasn't wrong. And I still think this tiny little thing will still sit and fester. Are you buying that?
Yeah, go ahead, Coach, and then
And from an organizational standpoint, if he just decides to skip it and decides it's not important, and you excuse him, what legitimacy do you have to keep anybody else from skipping it? You don't. And if they didn't think it was important, they wouldn't have made it an unexcused absence. And you get into this slippery slope of, once you do it for one guy, you've got to do it for every guy. And the idea that he couldn't have booked this trip further on, this mini camp this year was 2 days earlier than the one that they had last year. So if he had just booked it out from the one they had last year, he would have been fine. But he made this an issue.
Well, there's only, Tartania experts only available certain weeks of the year.
He must have a tight schedule.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing that is frustrating to me. Because I know there are folks out there that are like, oh, nothing he said there would have satisfied you, Nick. Because there are some folks out there that believe that I just decided I don't like this guy, and now no matter what he says, I'm going to say what's wrong with it, as opposed to every time he talks, he gives me another reason not to like him. Which is, you are in a friendly, popular podcast, as you mentioned, in good spirits.
Yeah, fun.
It is as simple as, I knew you guys were going to ask me about it. Listen, I've been in this league almost 20 years. I believe I'm still one of the best players in this league. I talked to my coach. The organization knew what it was. I'm comfortable that missing those 2 days is not going to hurt the New York Jets, and I made a choice. Instead, you give your little finger wagging, actually, folks, let me teach you about what words mean. And let me explain how the media actually wronged me. It is just paramount of folks who call everyone else out about being victims, pretending he's the victim. He was victimized by Rich Cimini. He was victimized by Diana Rossini. He was victimized by his head coach, calling it unexcused, and victimized by Merriam-Webster for not having a better definition of mandatory. It's just, it is the same type of thing you get. Anyone that's raised a teenager, that when they are caught dead to rights screwing up, instead of being like, my bad. You know what I mean? I was late.
I can't get... You're
gonna blame me that my phone doesn't work on the train and the train's delayed.
Everybody knows I don't have cell service.
Right? They same thing.
Everybody knows.
I mean, it's just maddening. It's just maddening.
You got to FaceTime. But you got to hop on the Wi-Fi or show up. Coach, I said goodbye to you last time. You showed up again, so I'm gonna try again. If you show up in the next block,
I had to come back.
Okay, but now you're working for free. Coach Mangini, everybody, he might be in the next block. He might not be. Mahomes has some brand new weapons. Look at this pass to Xavier Worthy.
This bottom third might go on the board. Okay. Travis Kelce, not a weapon? I don't know. Greatest tight end ever. I mean, who's writing these things?
Dusty. I told you.